Hi everybody, hi, it's Gina here again from Will Written, helping you to put your affairs in order and make sure that your nearest and dearest are provided for and secure in the long term using the magic of estate planning. So today the issue that I'm going to talk about is one that is often raised by mums and dads of adult children. It's something that a lot of parents get quite embarrassed about asking me, but it's a very important issue that worries a lot of people. Basically, what they'll often say to me is, look, I've got adult children, my kids are married or they're about to get married, and my concern is what will happen to my kids' inheritance if, in the long term, my kid gets divorced. Will my son-in-law or my daughter-in-law walk away with a substantial chunk of my child's inheritance? And that's something that a lot of parents are really worried about and don't want to happen. And to be honest with you, that's really quite natural, and it's not something that you should be embarrassed about, although of course lots of mums and dads are. It's not a pretty thought to be having, but it's only a human one, and it's a natural one because you've worked throughout your life to build up savings and assets and investments and that kind of thing that ultimately you want to leave to your own children. And the thought of somebody else's child, even if it's somebody that you have an awful lot of affection for, ultimately being able to walk away with a chunk of that doesn't sit well with a lot of mums and dads. And I can guarantee that even if you think the world of your son-in-law or your daughter-in-law, his or her parents are probably having exactly the same thought. So I don't want you to be embarrassed about it, okay? It's an issue that really needs to be thought about, really. Now, I suppose the first bit of advice that I should tell you, apart from obviously don't be embarrassed about it because it's only natural, is don't ever take the step of asking your child, say in the run-up to their marriage or when they're engaged or whatever, to enter into a prenup with their intended. For a start, you're only going to offend the entire family and probably lose your invitation to the wedding in the first place. But more important than that, it just doesn't work in UK law anyway. UK divorce laws are a very particular set of rules that are flexible and tailored to the needs of any particular couple that are splitting up. And the existence of a prenup is an issue to be taken into account, but it's not in any means definitive, and it can actually be completely overtaken by other circumstances, so don't bother. But you do have a really good choice in front of you when you're making your will, when you're thinking about this issue. So the way things work with inheritance law here in the UK is that if you leave an inheritance to somebody outright, I leave my estate or this asset to this person, in the event of your death, that part of your estate or that asset belongs outright to that person. It becomes that person's asset. Now, in this situation where you've left an inheritance to your son or your daughter and that inheritance becomes theirs, absolutely, if their marriage then breaks down, their inheritance is taken account of as part of the matrimonial assets that are there to be divvied up between the couple according to the needs of the husband and the wife and the children of the family, etc. And so, yes, there's potential there for it to be taken up by the divorce courts and redistributed contrary to the wishes that you expressed in your will, of course. But there's another way of approaching it, basically. What you can do instead is you can leave your child's inheritance to them as a trust fund, as a discretionary trust fund is the technical term, by using a particular type of will called a family trust will. In that type of thing, what you're doing is you are leaving your child's intended asset, your child's intended inheritance to them as a trust fund, but you're leaving it to them as part of a group. And that group is defined as your children, your grandchildren, and your subsequent descendants, the next generations of your family as a group. And you're giving the executors of your will the responsibility for managing that fund, and you're also giving them the widest possible powers to decide how that fund should be used, managed and distributed for the benefit of the people within that group. But then you supplement that with a private expression of your wishes, telling your executors how you want them to exercise those wide powers. And specifically what you're saying to them is, look, that You want them to make those assets available specifically for your children to use and benefit from during their lifetime, in any way that's appropriate for their long-term security and to maintain their lifestyle, etc. What that does, it sets up a situation where your child can call upon those assets and can use them for their permanent advantage in any way that they need to, but those assets remain within the protection of this trust fund, and they're not part then of your child's matrimonial assets if your child's marriage subsequently breaks down. So what that means is that the assets that you've left behind stay out of the reach of the divorce courts altogether, and it's always there as a fallback for your kid no matter what may go wrong in their lives. So that's a really, really useful way of just tactfully making sure that your assets that you're leaving for your children will always be there exclusively for your children, your grandchildren, etc., for as long as it's needed. And it takes away a lot of those worries about divorce and other things that may go wrong, other financial vulnerabilities that may happen unexpectedly down the road. So I hope that makes sense to you. If it's something that you wanted to get a little bit more advice about, do feel free to give me a call on 0151 601 5399, and I'll tell you a bit more about it as it applies to your individual situation. Or alternatively, you might want to just explore our blog a little bit further. I will put the link in the captions below for you. And yes, feel free to do your homework and think about what you need to do. And as I say, I'm always here to help you should you need to address that issue. So thanks again. Take care now. Bye-bye.